service coordinator for the Center for Leadership and Service. So if you have participated in Make a Difference Day, that happens through one of my organizations, since we were just talking about that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about enhancing your organization through service. Since both of your organizations do service already, so I know that KDCI is grounded in service, and I know that LDSSA works a lot with us in service. I really want to take this on a more conversational part of how we can create service to be more meaningful for your organization and the different types of service that you can be hosting to really get a better value in what you are doing and helping your members through finding their own passion and way in service. So really looking at that. So I really like this worksheet because, and if you ever need a copy of this just to do with your organization to see where their values also lie and like how you can engage them in meaningful service by knowing what would be their number one or even their number two. And I think that it's really great because there's no wrong answer to this. All of it in our definition is considered service to the community. In one way or another, it provides it. And so I think that helps us when we look at service. Sometimes service is seen kind of stereotypically, right? You have to be helping someone in need. But sometimes service is more than that. And it can really be based on a lengthy process, like writing your senator about something that you really care about. It is lengthy because they receive it, and then hopefully if they feel passionately like you do about it, then they go off to Congress or to the state Congress, and they continue to vote and advocate. And so it's a long process that you might not see the impact of it, or if you do see the impact of it, it might be like 3 or 4 years from now. But they all contribute to the betterment of society in some way or form. I think, so I have these two pictures on here, and if you ever see those memes that are like, this is what I think I do, this is what so-and-so thinks we do. The first picture is what I think service is, and that it is people who are passionate about something and they want to go out there and create action and create a positive impact, and that they are willing. Volunteering by definition is you are willing to go out there and do something. I think though, in the second picture, it's sometimes what I see happen in that we have created service requirements, which is great, and I believe in them because they were well-intentioned. It was to help students find their passion in service and go out there and do it. But what happens is the requirement outweighs the way that we talk about service, and then I meet people who are like, I have 20 hours and I really just need to do my 20 hours, and I don't really care where those 20 hours come from. And that's where that detriment begins to come when you're creating a relationship with your community, as well as really getting them to be active. Our goal in the Center for Leadership and Service is that the students who utilize us and who go through our programs are going to find something that they're passionate about, that they want to advocate for, whatever that is, whatever it is that your value set is telling you, this is my end goal, and that you make a commitment to it and you continue to do it outside of the university realm, and that this follows you in what we call our active citizenship, and that it's all goal towards making a positive impact in whatever community you want to make a positive impact, whether that is this community here now that you live in, your university community, your organization community, or the community you will live in the future. And so I think it's really important, and I like this because I hear this a lot from some of our community partners. We've got donuts, so that's why they should come. And I'm like, or they should come because they're doing something really neat, and can you talk a little bit more about the impact that your students will make, or what they will gain from this. So when I talk about service, we actually follow the triangle model, and I will refer to this service model quite a bit as we're going through different types of service. So in the service triangle, there is education, direct service, and reflection. And we believe that to have impact and to have a really meaningful experience in service, you have to meet all three. So education is, if you're going to go do a project, what is going on in your project? Why are you doing this project? Who is it going to benefit? And what is the long-term goal? And so if we were talking about homelessness, so I would want to have education on homelessness. And what does homelessness look like in Denton? And what do you need to know about your community in order to really create a change? And how is the community resources there? Like, what are the community resources? And how do I connect to them to make this more beneficial? And then going out and doing direct service. If you just do education, that's really great, but you never get to actually see what is really going on and really getting there in the middle of the community. And so that's where the direct service comes from. And I know both of your organizations do direct service, so that's really, really great. Because a lot of times we just hear the education and we never go out and do action. So one of my favorite quotes, when I was in college, I went to this really amazing speaker, and his example was about Martin Luther King. And that they talk a lot about how MLK was a dreamer. We hear that. He was a dreamer. He had all these dreams, and these dreams are meant to come true. There's another piece of it, in that he was a doer. He was very action-oriented. He was out there doing something that he believed in, and that's what that direct service is. You feel something, go out and do an action with it, whatever that means. And then reflection. Reflection is one of those that we always forget to do, but it really helps us in the way that we talk about whether or not our service project is benefiting us, and that your service project should benefit you. So whether that's, I'm doing this service project to help team build, I'm doing this service project because it's a part of our philanthropy mission and I want our members to understand our philanthropy. I'm doing this service project to up the morale, or our students seem very passionate, and this is a conversation we've been having over and over again, so it's time that we go out into the community and do something. And then coming back and reflecting on that. How was the project? Did it go well? Is there something that we need to do differently? What did you feel being in that experience? What did you learn? Those are so valuable because it creates a conversation. It creates some intrinsic value that sometimes our service requirements don't do. And that's especially, it's just valuable for us in our office to make sure that we're reflecting if we're doing a good job or not. So thinking a little bit about what does service look like, I am going to only talk about a couple of service types that I think might be really beneficial for student organizations and for individuals and to engage in, and there is a lot more than this. The list is like 20 different service types long. There is direct versus indirect service. So direct service is, I feel strongly about an idea or a population and I want to work directly with them. And so you go and you do that. Indirect service, some people, this is probably one of the ones that people haven't, there's some debate. And that indirect service can be virtual service, which it's still sort of direct because there is a direct benefit when you are doing virtual service, or social media based advocacy that creates service. And it's considered indirect because you're not actually in the middle of the community helping come up with solutions, and really being there and listening to other people's thoughts. But then that's when the debate comes back in. Are you in the middle of a community, the virtual community, who feels the same way as you do and is ready to create advocacy? And so that's kind of the difference between direct versus indirect service.
So would that be the difference between like donating to ASPCA and actually going out and participating in ASPCA?
So it's dependent on whether or not you believe that there is philanthropy work happening. So philanthropy can also be donation based, right? And that's a lot of times we're raising money for a cause that we believe in. And so, but I think that the one thing that happens with philanthropy, and I'll talk a little bit more about it as we go into it, is that sometimes we're just like, we just need to get to our goal. We need to get to the goal, or we set a goal and we're just going to get there, and we forget to do the education and advocacy piece of it. And so, could it be indirect service, saying I'm just going to give $20 to the Children's Miracle Network? I don't really know what the Children's Miracle Network does. It says children. I'm just going to donate to them because I'm passionate about children. Can that be indirect? I think it could be. It could be seen as indirect. But I think that's always up to debate on how people really feel indirect service is. We see in our area indirect service mostly in our social justice based work, in that if you are doing something with human trafficking and that's your social issue that you want to be a part of, and direct service would be being with the community and doing service with them. So whether that is housing them or helping them with interview skills, or doing education with them, there's a lot of different aspects in that direct. Indirect could be seen as there is a house that they all stay in, and they're not there when you're there, but you are painting their walls. So it's indirect because you're not actually being active with the community, but there is still a lot of meaningfulness that can be there, because if you didn't paint their walls, who would paint their walls? And it's important to be more knowledgeable about it, and so that way you can see what does that look like for them, talking to the people around you. And so that's how we kind of define indirect versus direct service in our office. And then we'll talk about meaningful service, social issue, social justice-based service, and philanthropy-based service. And so I think that what is really great about service, and why I think service is really important to our student organizations, is that it's the vehicle that makes concepts tangible. So if you believe something and it's in your vision and mission, you can use service to help actually show what that vision and mission is meant to accomplish, as well as to people can feel that. So there's a tangible feeling that you can get from that. If your mission and vision is based upon going back to the Children's Miracle Network, that's one of our philanthropies in our office, and so ours is based upon the children and health services. And so when we're looking at that, a way that we can do service is going to the hospital and putting on art projects for them, because we know that that is something that is beneficial to them. That's something that that will help them. And so that's why I really believe in service, and I think that service is also really great because it's one of those that is rooted in inclusivity, and any way you want to define inclusivity, and in diversity, and in social justice, and in action and empowerment, and that we can empower people through service. So that actually brings me to servant leadership, and that's where service, I think, starts. And it's one of the leadership styles that we like to talk about because it's probably one of the beginning leadership styles that we see in our office, and that servant leaders learn to serve first before they begin to lead. And they are grown out of the community, which is different than, I think, some leadership development, in that they're developed as leaders first and then they go into the community. Servant leaders, for them, service was the passion, and that's what gave them power. And that's where they felt empowered to do something and to become a leader in their, in what they believed in. And so we talk a lot about how servant leaders, a lot of times, they never meant to even become leaders. They didn't see themselves as leaders. They saw themselves as people who wanted to be in their community to help and to live in there and to make their communities better, and then they went forward. And so a lot of them will tell you that it felt like it was their calling. They were called to serve, and so that's actually one of our taglines in our office, is that a lot of us were called to serve, and then we were inspired to lead. And so that's where a lot of this comes from, and that in servant leadership is the process rather than the position. And that it's really, again, service is the vehicle where you begin to make meaning in what you do. And their main goal in servant leadership is to create social positive change. And one of the things that I really like about servant leadership is anybody can be a servant leader. A lot of times when I ask students, so I'll do it here, who is a servant leader? Who would you place out there as a servant leader?
Anyone?
Anyone.
My dad.
Your dad. Excellent. Why would you say your dad?
He was very involved in our church and dedicated years to being over the congregation we were in at the time. He was over 3 different congregations and dedicated countless hours, all with no pay. I saw that all growing up.
He has something that he believes in, and that's where he found himself to lead. Definite servant leader.
I can just think of like my sisters, because a lot of them come in not having any community service experience. So since we are service based, we have that opportunity to serve first. And now, like many of those that didn't do community service before have been service officers when I started.
That's really awesome. Yes, and that I think that sometimes when I ask who are servant leaders, people that we usually get are Mother Teresa, MLK, Gandhi. It's your really big names that have made impacts that have rippled through these times. And I think that the people who are really servant leaders are the people who are everyday. Your father, your sisters, our teachers, our mentors, the people who really help us really create positive change, because positive change doesn't have to just be your community. Positive change can even just be yourself and how we see that. And that's what we really feel service should come from yourself, from your heart, from your head, from your feet. It comes from you. And so that's what servant leadership looks at too. And that service is really ideally out there to make change. And that it has, and when we use it in our teams, service is there to create interpersonal development, because you want to talk to your team, you want to allow them to explore what the service is and have those conversations. And it's also getting you, how many of you have done service where it's very team oriented, like you need your team, like Eureka Spring, or the Eureka 2 project. It's all based upon that team mentality. There's 200 volunteers, you have a common goal, and you have to work well as a team. And so that's why we like service in our organizations too, because they help us build our teams. You learn your leadership from that, and then you also learn how to communicate with others. So it's really and interpersonal development. Service has a positive effect on reducing stereotypes and facilitating cultural and racial understanding, especially in the social justice-based service. Service has a positive effect on the sense of social responsibility and citizenship skills, and that we hope that once you become passionate about something, you would take it and go and use your voting power and go and use your voice and say that you don't believe in something, and how do we change the world? using those thoughts. And then service has a positive effect on commitment to service. So if you do meaningful service, you're more likely to be committed to service. So, making change. The leadership model that we actually use in our office, and this is the triangle form of it, but it's actually a Venn diagram, is the self, others, and society, or the social change model. And it's based upon how you see yourself and how are you aware of yourself, what are your values, how do you stay committed to them, how do you create congruence. And then all of that, once you understand yourself and the power that you have and what is it that you are passionate about, you move on to others and you help others also create that passion. And you come together with like-minded people, like your organizations, and you empower them to go forward. And you create a common purpose, you create a common goal. That's usually your mission and vision for your organizations. You come together and you collaborate and you learn how to challenge each other to think about different things. And you're there to help each other. And once you go through that and you come together, you can take your ideas and your beliefs and your passions as a group and become a part of the society. Well, you go into the society or into your citizenship and you help others find that as well. And so you just keep building. And the thought is, if you can make it all the way around, it will create change. And that's the middle of the triangle. And it's really, really neat. I would tell y'all that if that is something, if you're really interested in leadership and service in leadership, social change model is the model that you want to go and study a little bit, because it's really based upon college students. It was written for college students by college students, and how college students are really what can make the huge change and impact because of what you're doing and learning here. So, now going into actual service. Now I hear from y'all. When we begin to talk about meaningful service, like I said, a lot of times we have students who come in and they say, I have a 5-hour requirement and I need to do my 5 hours. And my question always will be, doesn't matter if you're coming in for 5, 20, 25, or if you just are interested in service, is what are you passionate about? So I know I talked a lot about that, but I really do believe, and that's probably the one thing that I would stress the most, is that your values are rooted into what you're passionate about, and your passion is what's rooted into what will make service the best experience for you. And so what is meaningful service? It's exactly that. And how is it different? It's different because at the end of the day, not only do you get to feel like you made a difference, you understand why you made a difference, and that and that you want to go out and make a difference again, hopefully in the same community that you were making a difference in. And I think that the other piece of meaningful service that we don't always get to talk about is skill-based service, and that we see this, I would say, if your organization was not rooted in service. So, for example, I had, in my previous institution, the Pokemon Club came up to me and they were like, we want to do service, but we don't know how to. It's not really a part of our organization. What is it that we can do? And so we sat down and we had a conversation, and I said, why are you passionate about your organization? And they're like, oh, well, you know, I have really good memories from playing Pokemon as a kid, and it really is how I found a home. And I said, so would you say that you would be interested in working with children to teach them how to play something that you love? And they said, yeah. And we said, that might be a really awesome way for you to connect to that service. So we found an elementary school that was having an after-school program, and they went and they became mentors. And that's something that they didn't go off to do. They were just going to teach, well, not just, but just going to teach the children there to play Pokemon, but they found that they could actually mentor them through the game. They found that they could have these conversations and create a home and friendships for them that some of those kids didn't have previously, and I think even for them, they created meaning out of that. And that's what really is awesome that we can do. You can take the skills or the knowledge or your passion and put it in exactly like that, even if you don't have service. So if you've got friends who are engineering majors, STEM is huge. We always are looking for people who will go out there and become camp leaders for STEM programs, especially women in STEM. If people they're very great at computers. I have several community partners who would love, their mission is to help others get all the skills that they need in order to transition to a job. So especially in the low income or in the homeless population, that is what they're fighting for, is to help them succeed. And so they need people to teach them how to use computers. They need people who really like reading resumes and how do I put that on, or what kind of clothing am I looking for an interview? How do I have interview skills? And so those are ways to get connected, even if your organization wasn't doing service, or if your friends who are in different majors are in organizations and they want to do service but they don't know where to start. I would always say start with what you love. And so that's where we begin that meaningful service. So what is that mission, vision, or purpose of your organization? What are you passionate about? What is your group passionate about? And then what knowledge and skills can you bring to service? And can you start there? And then how can you do service? And it's just really going out and contacting people. You can come to us at any time at the Center for Leadership and Service, and we would totally get you connected anywhere. We work currently in 7 different cities in the Denton County area, but we know a lot of people throughout the Denton County area. So even if you don't live here, you have friends that don't live in Denton, but they want to get involved in Carrollton or Louisville or Argyle or Sanger. We have ways and community partners who are there that would love to have them come and volunteer. So any questions on meaningful service or something that you would like to connect people to?
Just curious, what were the 7 cities you said that you worked with?
We work
you
with,
just named off a couple. But.
Yeah. So we work with Hickory Creek, Corinth, Denton, Ponder, sometimes Sanger, Argyle, Carrollton. We have gone into Grapevine. Sometimes Grapevine's a little bit harder for us. Louisville. There's another, there are other places. Highland Village, Flower Mound. So that's more than 7, but those are our cities that we are pretty close to. Also, it's because they're within driving distance of the university, a 15 to 20 mile driving distance. So we know that students will participate there. But if they're interested in Fort Worth, Dallas, or Arlington, we've got a lot of people there too that would really love help. Great question. Any others? So the next one, and one that we hear a lot about, is social issues, social justice-based service. And so really looking at what is, I'll start with social justice. Social justice really is I would say it is based in the idea of justice and equality and what does that mean for people. And I think that it has some common themes. A lot of times you'll see something about humanity, politics, education, healthcare. Those would be social justice aspects. And then your social issues is what goes into that. So that when you begin to unpack those themes, that's when you begin to look at social issues. And social issues are what society sees as problems that are going on and things that they would like to fix. And it can be, usually it's kind of more focused on the majority, what the majority of society feels like needs to be fixed, but it doesn't mean that there aren't things that people are not talking about just yet that already can go in, and we can begin to start talking about how do we solve this for our community and getting together. And I just used the word fix. I'll talk about this in a second. I actually try really hard not to use the word fix because we use that a lot in service. But one of the pitfalls that happens in social justice and social issues, and I apologize for using that word, is that we go in trying to fix. So one of the things that we see heavily now is what we call volunteer tourism, and that you go off and you do volunteer work not in your community, and you go either to a different state, you go to a different country, and you come back and you feel accomplished, but you realize you haven't learned something, and that it's all about the photos and about the experience, but it's not about what you were actually doing there. And so it's starting to happen more often because we are seeing that students really want to go abroad to serve, but they don't know how to serve meaningfully and how to really educate themselves. And that one of the things that we always ask is for our students to become advocates of something, to become allies of something, to be willing to put their voice to something that they believe in, whether that's quietly or loudly, but as long as your voice is out there, we really want to see that. And so that's a lot what social issue and social justice advocacy or service is based in. And it's really important because as we look at change, that's where we want to start. And that if we could pick something in the social issue realm and work on it for a year, we could grow more servant leaders. We can have better conversations. It's really based heavily on that triangle that I showed you earlier, in that it's based heavily in the education, and that it's more than just the direct service itself. It's based upon what am I learning and how am I going to put my learning to use. And it's really great for classes that are based upon that. It's really great for people who want to do projects in that area. And it's really all based in making a change, making a dent into the social issue, social justice realm. And I think that the hard part with social issues and social justice-based service is a lot of times you won't see the impact that you have directly. And it may take years and years and years, and that it's a process. So we did a farm, and my students were really upset because they were in the mud and they were putting seeds in the ground, and they're like, great, I just did free labor. And it was really great because I talked a little bit to our community partner about that, and the community partner came back and said, let me tell you about these seeds. These seeds are going to become blueberries in this amount of time, and these blueberries actually are fed to our children who go to the school on our farm, who are learning about sustainability. And these blueberries are going to go to the community around us who don't. We have a huge problem with food insecurity and food deserts. So food deserts mean that there's nothing really being grown, and that a lot of the things that they have are already produced. So like think of prepackaged pieces in fast food restaurants. And so they were talking about how it was helping them talk about nutrition and how it was helping them get fresh fruits into the tables that normally don't have those fresh fruits. And they might not see it, and they may never see what those blueberries look like, but it's there for the greater good. And so that's what social issue, social justice is based. And so it's really important, though, to have that reflection, because if not, you just think, I got muddy and I put seeds in the ground and I don't really know what's going to happen. And that's the reason why it follows heavily in that triangle. And so it goes back again. What's your mission, vision, and or purpose of your organization? what are you passionate about, what is your group passionate about, and then what are your values and what is your experience. And that a lot of times when you pick a social issue or a social issue that you're going to base your service on, it comes down to your values but also your experience. And that if you've experienced something that falls into these social issues, you make some of the best advocacy because we know that you're going to be passionate about it and you want to see people move forward. And that's really what that will look like. Is there any questions about this type of service? It sounds really hard to get into, but this is probably the easiest one to get into because a lot of that meaningfulness that you would want to create with your group actually comes from the service itself, and that it's high impact service, what we call high impact service, because you're going to get a lot from it. You might not see the end result, but you'll get a lot from it. So, and then last but not least, philanthropy. So philanthropy a lot of times gets placed with charity, and I would say that charity is not a bad word, but a lot of times we take the word charity out because charity sometimes sends off the message of there is a helper and there is a being helped rather than we are a community group solving problems together. And so I will never stop anybody from using the word charity, but that's a lot of times why you won't see charity as a service word and that they use the word philanthropy. So philanthropy actually comes, and I just found this out as I was Googling some real definitions for y'all. Philanthropy comes from the idea of caring for people. And so I'll actually read you the definition. It came from the idea that we are really looking at serving our neighbors and serving ourselves, and it's about the love for humanity. It's rooted in caring, developing, and enhancing what it is like to be human. So really, when we talk about philanthropy, it's really about the cause that you love and how do you make a change in that. And a lot of times our philanthropies are chosen by our organizations, whether it's nationally or locally, and and there's different ways of giving back. And so a lot of times when we talk philanthropy, we only talk about philanthropy as a giving back system monetarily or in kind. But philanthropy, the one thing that happens is it's easy sometimes to give money if that is something that you have, and that there's not a lot of thought put into it. It's easy to say, oh, you need $5, I'll drop $5 in the bucket. Or you're checking out at the CVS and they're like, oh, would you like to donate $1 to Children's Miracle Network or the American Cancer Society? And you're like, yeah, sure. And you don't think much about where that dollar is going. And so we always ask that when you do philanthropy, do some education with your philanthropy. And if you can connect your philanthropy to service, you actually create this really great triad that makes people want to give more. Because if you feel connected and you feel that you're really making a difference with that $5 and you understand where your $5 is going, then you're more likely to give that $5. And so philanthropy is important because a lot of the people who are nonprofits, they really need that money. So in our office, we do Eagle-thon, which goes to Children's Miracle Network and specifically Cook Children's in Fort Worth. And so this year we decided, because we knew that people have been giving us money but they don't understand where their money is going to, we have been pledging their money to certain aspects. So our theme this year is Celebrate Life, so we're going to do 12 months of birthdays. We're going to do a whole year of birthdays for the hospital. So now you know that your money is going to go to creating birthdays. We also decided that we want to support their camp program. So we're pledging to send 40 students 40 children and their siblings to summer camp for the terminally ill. And so we know that now that's where your money is going to, where it's going to buy art kits for the kids. And so when they're doing their painting projects and their coloring projects, they will have an art kit that is just theirs while they're there. And so if you're passionate about art, now maybe that dollar means something a little bit more, and that you know where it's going. And so that's one thing that I would say about philanthropy and why it's important, is because it goes to do really, really great work, but sometimes we don't allow people to know. We're not allowed, but we don't think about telling people what exactly our money is going to, and what is it that you're really going to do with that. And so I think that the nice thing about philanthropy is anybody can pick up a philanthropy as long as you believe in something. And so I know this has been the question for everything, but what are you passionate about? What is your group passionate about? Back to the value, back to your experience, but then what does your community need and how can you contribute? So for us, we know that 90,000 children in the Denton County community actually use Cook Children. And we know that our money is going to contribute to their welfare and to their families and to their siblings and to the care and the life that they are having. And that in their challenges, we hope that we can help them in that by having money to do research or to buy equipment or to just have a birthday party and put a smile on their face, because we know birthdays are really important for them. And so that is how we have rethought philanthropy in our office, but how I think you build philanthropy for your organizations. And you can always pick up a philanthropy, and you can always choose one each year, and that it's really based upon how you educate others and do you know where your money is going. So, any questions about philanthropy? So, this all leads up to what we believe is our end goal. This is our mission and vision. This is where our values lie for our students, and that we want you to become active citizens, and that really means being out there and doing your part and being a part of service and contributing and knowing what you believe in, being what you believe in, and then doing what you believe in. And we are here to help you in any kind of way of what that really means, and that we hope that you will also do the same with your organization, because you'll find that your organization becomes closer. They become more aware of things that are going on. They're more willing to talk, and they're more willing to be committed not only to you, but to other things outside of that. And I think that that is why we believe that service is such a vital part of what our works do. So I'm gonna show you what we like to call the active citizenship movement.
Meet Khalid. Khalid loves his neighborhood almost as much as he loves music. He's lived here for 26 years, so he knows these streets. But sometimes he wishes he could change a few things. He's not the only one. Meet Layla. She works for a local organization by day, and she's a community hero by night. Layla's trained as an active citizens facilitator. She's brilliant at bringing people together. They've talked, and not just about music, about the big things. It gets Khalid thinking about what makes him him, about what he's got to give and learn from other people in the community. Meet the community. Now they're talking about the changes they'd like to make, and they're gaining new skills to make them happen. Together they turn an abandoned bus into a library. Edson and Nadia start a community garden. Khalid organizes social events for the elderly. Things happen when people connect. And it's not just here, but across the country and beyond. We are active citizens, working together locally and connecting globally. We believe change can happen through us and not just to us. If you agree, join us.
So, we hope that you will also join the movement with us as we try to create a better tomorrow and what we really feel passionate about. So, if you have any questions, right here. Any questions? Yeah.
Well, maybe it's not a question, but I'm in another organization. This is our first semester active, and I want to start community service with an organization for next semester, so I might come and talk to you to see what, we can do for next semester.
Yeah, we would love that. Our partners would love that. They love all of you so much, and we love them, and so we could definitely work things out. Any other questions about service or leadership?
All right, well, thank you so much.